Today, hello, my name is Ram. Today, I will be talking about how to set up authentication in your apps with Superbase Auth. It's by Fatuma Abdullah. We have all about authentication and Superbase Auth. In this article, you will learn the basic key concept that help you grasp how authentication and authorization works. We'll start by learning what authentication and authorization are. Then learn how to implement authentication in your application using Superbase or prerequisites, the table of content and prerequisites, what is authentication and authorization, how does authentication work, session management with tokens, secrets and cookies, type of authentication factors, common authentication strategies, password based, passwordless, two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, all 2.0, SSO, SAML, authentication and security Superbase, how to use Superbase or the APIs, SDKs, etc. Prerequisite, you need to know the following to make most of this article: basic programming language, a Superbase project to follow along, a text editor to try out example code snippets. So, question: what is authentication and authorization? In simple terms, authentication is the process of user identifying themselves to a system and the system configuring that user is who they claim to be. On the other hand, authorization is the process of the system determining which part of the application the user is authorized to view or interact with and which part of the user is not allowed to access. How does authentication work? User interacts with the system. First interaction, register, provide information and secret, system registration process. Subsequent interaction, authenticate, provide info and secret, verify, identify, verification, successful, user info to client, client stores session info, access system with session info. The flowchart depicts the user authentication process. The first time a user interacts with the system, they will be requested to register. Typically, the user will provide a piece of information and a secret that is meant to be known only by them and the system. This is the registration part of the authentication process. Next time the user interacts with the same system, they will be required to provide the identify information along with the previously defined secret in order to verify their identity. The device that user initiates the interaction from is the client and system in the server. Once the system verifies the user, it sends over some information to the client about the user. Because this process takes time and requires some action from the user, the client will store this information and send it back to the system whenever the user needs to access the system. This reduces friction by not requiring the user to actively authenticate every single time. This creates a user session. You have client server, signs JWT stateless, client stores JWT locally, generates session ID stateful. Set session ID in cookies, client stores session ID from cookie locally. The server can paste this user information to the client in the two ways possible. In the case of token, the server generates a signed token and passes it to the client. This token is typically a JWT. Server is able to verify the integrity of the token because it signs it. This is referred to as stateless authentication. In the case of cookies, the server creates a record of the user session in a database or a cache that will include a session ID. Server sends the session ID to the client. The client stores the session ID in a cookie and sends it back to the server. Whenever the user makes a request, the session ID is randomly string that acts as a pointer to the actual database records. When the server receives these cookies, it matches the session ID it contains to its session records, then matches them to user database. Types of authentication factors. An authentication factor refers to a type of credential that can be used to verify a user's identity. Sometimes an example is password, sometimes token set to your phone, sometimes example is a fingerprint. There's password based authentication, passwordless authentication, two-factor authentication, multi-factor, 2.0 social auth, SSO, SAML. Authentication and security. You have GDPR, HIPAA, and SOC compliance. Super-based authentication service. I think this is enough for today. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.